Yeah, that's better. Let's talk. My country's health service refers to social anxiety disorder as an overwhelming fear of social situations. For some, it gets better as they get older, but for many, it's not something that's just going to go away on its own. As a mental disorder, it can be hard to truly explain to people, difficult to treat, and even conducive to depression and substance abuse. So coping with it can be quite a struggle, and ignoring it can lead to personal deterioration. But there are some ways to help deal with it. You may have a few ways in mind, like cognitive behavioral therapy, group treatment, or maybe even medication. However, not everyone has easy access to these services, or can even afford them, or can even approach them out of similar anxieties and fears. Some mightn't even know where to start, so for a lot of people who suffer from this, you just have to go it alone. You may have limited options other than to put on a brave face and confront the world, and everyone in it. I'm sure even those who don't deal with social anxiety disorder may still know the pangs of fear and self-doubt that creep into the mind when dealing with people, be it at school, at work, or on the street. So if your access to services or medication to alleviate social anxiety is limited, another way to help overcome these fears is to actually approach the situations that cause them with some exposure therapy, but starting off small, You could seek out social groups or clubs near you, but there's also an even easier place to start. Despite being maligned historically as an antisocial activity, many video games, namely those with online multiplayer, are, social by their very nature. While some academics believe they're more likely to provide only the illusion of true interaction and social development, I feel with moderation and mindful usage, it really doesn't have to be that way. As described by Duchesneau, Moore, and Nickel, these online multiplayer games are like virtual third places. Public, informal meeting spaces beyond the obligations of home or work. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that socializing in these spaces can feel a little easier than it is in real life. The people you meet are often more likely to share your interests, the general anonymity may boost your confidence, and many online games allow you to radically customize your appearance to your liking. That last point is particularly cool, because you can often present in-game however you wish. As an example, you could appear as another gender, something that may even provide positive psychological benefits for players feeling gender dysphoria. There's even academic evidence to back that one up. So it could be a healthy escape for closeted trans people, especially when in the real world, these feelings and any notions of transness continue to be unfairly ostracized, both socially and even legally in some places. So if social gaming experiences can help people come out of their shells, then thank God for VRChat. VRChat, the world's most popular social VR or virtual reality platform. Strap on a headset, meet some people, and travel thousands of user-made worlds. Sure, you've probably already seen some of the compilation videos that did the rounds back in 2017 when VRChat first entered the online zeitgeist.
Hey, quiet down.
What the fuck?
I'm waddling here.
Besides, things only really started popping off in 2020 after the COVID-19 pandemic arrived, severely limiting social opportunities. All of a sudden, a game like VRChat, which had provided an enhanced social experience thanks to VR implementation, became an even more attractive space to fill that social void, especially after the introduction of more affordable VR headsets onto the market like the Quest 2. Thanks to its free-to-play service model and desktop support for those without VR headsets, the game exploded in popularity during what Professor Edward Castronova of Indiana University would describe as an exodus to the virtual world. This was all back when I started on VRChat, and what eventually became clear to me was that this wasn't just some surrogate for real-life social interaction, but potentially a great place for people with social anxiety to begin their journey to overcoming some of their fears in a safer, more anonymous environment. That was my hope, anyhow. I talked a big game earlier, and I still have good things to say, but let's get something straight. For all its positives, its potential, I've found the VRChat can be nearly as socially daunting as real-life situations, in its own bizarre and strange ways. Sort of in that paradoxical way that bustling cities can sometimes feel like the loneliest places in the world. When I started, the public worlds where everyone would arrive upon first joining were loud, uncomfortable, and occasionally full of bad actors and children. It was a mess. But without any real direction provided by the developers, it was a mess you had to learn to live with if you wanted to meet people. And things really haven't changed.
What do you have against trans people?
I'm just asking if he's trans, you fucking loser. Can you piss off? You weren't involved in this conversation, you fucking piss off. Thank you.
Jesus, somebody's got an attitude.
You're mean.
I could easily imagine first-time players being immediately put off by this upon joining. I understand that many online games are like this, and you can absolutely make friends in these environments the same way you might in a real-life noisy bar or a crowded nightclub, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't still pretty anxious about conducting myself here. While I feel like I've overcome most of my own socially anxious fears, stuff like this could really make me feel like I was back at square one. In Mikhail Shashevsky and Leighton Evans' paper on virtual reality, they make a great point in saying that the heightened immersion provided by VR in social situations can actually go both ways, causing stuff like harassment and trolling to become even more intrusive compared to non-VR games. Then throw in the fact that a lot of people who aren't just fucking around simply don't want to know you, especially if you're new, often blocking fresh players on site for even trying to socialize with them or their circle. Just like in real life, making friends in VR can be kinda hard. I haven't done a great job selling this, have I? It's all shite I navigated for years, all on desktop, and my experiences were not as great as I'd initially hoped. However, I just kept coming back, because I'd occasionally stumble into some kindred spirit and get a real taste of exceptional conversation, reminding me why I was there in the first place and that this was still an insanely cool new online frontier deep in its Wild West period. It still offered a unique sense of spatiality and place attachment that was also natural and formed in worlds created by the players themselves. No Facebook, no NFT horseshit, just genuine spaces and raw VR social encounters. And there's absolutely dangers associated with that, like in many online spaces that you may already be aware of, but they are beyond the scope of this video, and I do want to be able to finish this. However, after nearly 500 hours, yeah, I'd met some people and seen some cool spots, but I still felt pretty lost in there. If your own experience with the game has been in any way similar to mine, I don't doubt that your patience with it may have run out a long time ago. But earlier this year, I actually finally found what I'd kind of been looking for the whole time. Thanks to the introduction of groups into VRChat, a new built-in feature allowing users to more easily come together and organize events, I've since discovered these collectives of people attempting to create something rather special in the game that rails against a lot of the issues I've already described here.
Look at me. I'm giving you the finger.
Stop.
What up, YouTube?
Look at those eyes. Those are the eyes of someone who lost a kidney.
I meant that complimentary.
Essentially a community that helps people that struggle with social anxiety.
Or none at all.
And tell them, hey, you can talk to people. You can make connections.
Just once I'd like to work with professionals.
Oh no, they did my job for me. That was some of the organizers for Talk Group, a thoughtfully structured safe space for socially anxious players on VRChat, as well as non-socially anxious players seeking a grounded and reasonable third place to meet people. About when I was ready to walk out on this game, I discovered Talk Group and thought I'd give it a spin. There was no registration or hoops to jump through, just a VRChat group and some regular social events to join. And I'm gonna be dead honest with you, it was like I was playing an entirely different game. I didn't have to keep my finger on the trigger to block annoying players, there was no kids as it was strictly over 18, and upon joining I was immediately seen to and shown the ropes. And what are those ropes, you may ask?
Okay, what was the question again? Fuck, why am I having so much...
Well, I think one of the cornerstone foundational events that we kind of run, it all starts with these paired talking sessions.
Main gist of it is that we force you, no, I'm joking, consensually force you to talk to another person. We will start things off with an announcement. Guys, you could do this. You're amazing. Thank you so much for coming. And then we'll put everyone in their pairs.
You know, we're literally bringing strangers that have never met. They've never met, and we're putting them in a comfortable, relaxed, positive environment where we give them talking points, we give them things to talk about, you know, icebreaker topics and topics of discussion.
If I pair you up with somebody you're besties with, let me know. The goal is to talk to somebody that, you know, you haven't had many opportunities to talk to. The main goal is to, you know, practice healthy conversational habits. Like, ask people questions. Ask people questions that you want them to ask you. They should ask you questions back, and to practice that active listening, you know. We encourage people to do that outside of the talk group as well, to make that a habit and do that in the real world.
You know, you show them the techniques on how to get socially ripped.
And it's a very big hurdle, you know, especially for someone that struggles heavily with social anxiety, or maybe someone that is just trying to work on their conversational skills.
I mean, the point of the group, right, is to battle social anxiety. And the best way to do that is to kind of force yourself into those situations, you know, learn from it.
Halfway through the event, they merge with another pair, and now they've become a group of 4. Depending on the person, that's either going to be higher anxiety or maybe lower anxiety. They have comfort in people. They have comfort in talking to a group versus talking one-on-one.
And they have to introduce their conversational partners to each other, whether like they liked someone's avatar, or they really like the way someone speaks, how articulate someone was. It is so important that you let people like feel good about themselves when they are doing good things.
It's basically like practice. It's just practicing socializing, you know, building up that social repertoire so they can actually use it in social situations.
These guys have structure. There's paired talking events where you're nearly always getting to know someone new and with lots of time to do it. I like this one a lot because it presented this two-way street that both parties need to walk. You talk, you chat, and at the end, you're merged with another pair. Here you need to describe the qualities of the person you've just spent the last half an hour getting to know to this other pair. It's not only a good incentive to communicate, but to listen as well. And it's validating, you know, to be described with care and consideration. It's kind of sweet, and I've made some decent friends through it.
My friends list grew by about 40 people that are directly tied to Talk Group, and I haven't even really been in the group that long. You know, I do a lot of stuff with those people, but aside from them, I've made several really good friends. You know, I've made probably about 4 or 5 of those in the group, and I think that's a lot more than you'd potentially get, you know, from other places.
Every now and again, there's a few events thrown in there, like improv classes, you know, kind of force you to get up there, not overthink what you're talking about. But then, you know, then we've got like normal stuff, you know, come and apply what you've learned, you know, what you've been working on, come hang out, you know, play some games with folks, a little conversation, but a lot more casual.
And again, because it's a controlled environment, I could finally just let my fucking guard down, you know? It's honestly freeing, and I imagine it's pretty liberating for someone who actually struggles with the kind of social anxiety that keeps that guard up far higher.
Let's be real, the VRChat experience is not very fun. I think it is definitely very difficult, you know, all the screaming children. Yelling slurs, the e-boys and the e-girls that treat you like crap. You got the wallflowers that are too shy to talk to you, and you're too shy to talk to them. You know, I was one of those wallflowers, one of those hidden gems, so to speak. I have so much confidence, by the way. I knew I had so much potential to talk to people, but I was so anxious and so shy. I used that as an excuse to hide and not improve. Until I got fed up one day and I really just started going to go talk to people. I would approach people, and even if it was silly conversations about Skibbity, Ohio, like, that's something to me. After like a while of building my confidence and talking to people and building friendships and finding my own connections, taking fate into my own hands, you know, I wanted even more because I noticed like there's so many people just like me on this game. They come here craving social interactions. It's a game all about socializing, and yet even when we hop on here, we're not fulfilling those needs because we're too anxious or like nobody wants to talk to us. a lot of communities as well. Like they will market themselves as being like this. We accept everyone. We're so open. But I'll join an instance and not a single person will say hi or acknowledge me. The big goal that's always been in mind for Talk Group is to bring people in. It's been like a beacon for those people that struggle, that just want to socialize. They're here to help themselves, here to help others.
If you want to socialize in public worlds, and even more moderated private bars and cafes, you're nearly always required to announce your presence to people by finding ways to interact and kick up conversations. For many, this might be easy, but for some, extroverts included, it's not. And when you don't know how to start, the game can begin to feel pretty isolating really quickly. Talk Group's solution to this is simple. They're just extending their hand first and giving you the boost you need to get started meeting people who want to meet you too. In short, they just give a shit, you know?
Gather around in front of me where I can see you and have your hands up so I can take your wallet.
Yes. Whoa.
But I can't
I
use
give you
my
harmonica,
hands.
that's it.
It's honestly great crack. No need to watch any of those fucking videos trying to tell you how to act or behave in VRChat. No need to join an active roleplay group, which can be fun depending on what you're into, but a lot of us just want a regular and accommodating social scene, you know? And Talk Group is leading a small but impressive little movement in VRChat to foster this. They're not alone in this, of course, but we'll talk about the other parties later. It's nice as well that they also encourage discussion outside their events on their Discord server, and using it, they even point people towards useful mental health resources as well. In a game where social and sexual harassment looms in public servers without much addressment by the developers, Talk Group's aggressive want for that near idealistic interpretation of a real, safe, virtual third place within the game is admirable. It's good. It's just good to see, you know? They really helped me start to see the true potential of meeting people this way. Honestly, it was kind of like I was just wandering around in the dark before I arrived here.
Talk Group came at a very interesting point in my life where I'd just gotten out of the military. I'd chosen not to re-enlist and just close that chapter of my life and start a new one. When people close a chapter of their lives and they move, and when life changes, it can put people in a very lonely place, in a very low place. VR was something on my bucket list, if we're being perfectly honest. Kind of like gave myself a goodbye gift, plugged the gap for, closing one chapter of my life, losing a lot of people, or losing contact with a lot of people. And yeah, this was a brave new world kind of, because I don't treat it as a game. Before Talk Group, it was a struggle in the VR space after I'd gotten into it, just trying to find a place of belonging.
A lot of people that have been playing the game since the very beginning, or for, however long, they might look at new, visitor, or just regular users, and a lot of the time, they tend to just think, oh, they're trolls, they're kids, they're whatever. They mute them, block them. A lot of kind of stuff like that happens. They aren't really accommodating towards newer users. Most of them really probably don't even care, even though they were probably at that point sometime in their life as well. I feel like a lot of people in VRChat, newcomers, it's hard for them to even get started because right off the bat, they are viewed more negatively as like a more untrustworthy individual. It's hard to socialize with people that you would actually potentially be friends with, because most will either ignore you and stay with their own cliques, or by the time you even get there, you might be blocked or muted, and it, it's too late. A lot of people in VRChat also don't use it socially. It's pretty easy to go into places, again, like the Black Cat, places with mirrors and stuff, and just see everybody just sitting there completely quiet, looking at themselves. Maybe they're playing music or something, and there's no conversation to be had. So I think socially VRChat definitely has some issues. It's just kind of the nature of the beast, the way it's built. I think groups like this kind of help break that for the people that are really interested in making friends.
I found Talk Group through one random Reddit post where it was giving people an opportunity to help other people that struggle with social anxiety, or to give people a chance to better their confidence and growing as a person. They help build me up in the places where I've been weak before. I was able to find a community that I felt comfortable in, and I was able to give back to. As much as they've given back to me, I've tried giving back to them, hopefully in equal measure.
In an environment often dominated by antisocial tendencies, Talk Group stands out, even beyond the obvious reasons or those stated by Clayton and Arrestor. If the intense social stimulus of public lobbies is just too much for you, it's much less of an issue here. If you're photosensitive and can't risk it against the whims of random players and would-be trolls, then this sort of group could be the kind of safe space that might actually make the thing playable for you. Maybe you just want a relaxed environment to practice your English skills with somebody, or maybe German or French or Chinese. Talk Group and groups like it are international and highly diverse by design, though expect English to still be the primary language here due to its online ubiquity. It was a pleasant surprise to find that Talk Group was more than just this social group, but kind of a full-on community, an online social center full of people operating on mutually beneficial social terms for one another. It's pretty cool. You know what else would be a bit cool now? A wee story now, man. Sit down, we'll give you a wee spiel now. Sit down.
I'm mad. It's mad. It is. So like a few months before I joined Talk Group, I joined on Public World. I think it was Midnight Rooftop, and immediately like a barn, like an 8-foot tall Barney, walks up to me and is like, yo man, where the hose at? And I was like, dog, I don't know. This is VRChat. And then like 3 kids came in and started shouting the N-word. So I was like, maybe that's enough for the night. But I went into another world, right? I was like, benefit of the doubt, let's give it another try. Load into a different Midnight Rooftop, and there are people like openly ERPing like where you spawn. So I didn't touch the game for months after that one.
Hello, my dear friend. Please talk to me. I understand the following words.
AI voices. We just
Cookie.
need this.
Pizza. History. Voicemail and operator. If you want to open your fortune cookie, say cookie. If you'd like to order pizza, say pizza.
Pizza.
Playing random phone history recording.
Following telephone recordings were made in 1978 and 1980 by Evan Doorbell.
Now, if you've been part of a clan or a guild in any other online game, you might be thinking, okay, so they made a little social club, they made a clan with extra steps, big whoop. Well, context is key here. I've already described to you the challenges of actually socializing in VRChat, and right now the best solution the game's developers can come up with is promoting no time to talk. A public speed-friending world that, while amusing, I've found limited success with. They might recommend you a couple more worlds to find people in, but beyond that, it's on you.
I mean, it's almost just kind of like real life, you know? They don't give you a book on how to make friends. It doesn't really offer any kind of guide, you know, or anything to kind of help new players make friends or, you know, find new things to do. If you play VRChat, you kind of just have to figure it out on your own, unfortunately.
In a game where socializing is the primary gameplay experience, I understand that tutorializing how best to play might be difficult to do. VRChat's recent introduction of an actual 18+ verification may help the situation overall, but I believe many of the issues I've already mentioned will remain. So what Talk Group is doing is gas. It's great, and for some, kinda necessary. They're trying to fill a complicated gap left by the developers, and they're actually not alone.
So I'm Kat, I run the group Open Mind, and what we do is we mainly run sharing circles, which are a small group of 8 people or up to 8 people, where we have a topic for the circle, and I basically ask questions related to the topic and people give their answers. We also do some stretches and breathing exercises. Basically, it's a space for people to talk about things they wouldn't usually get to talk about on a day-to-day basis. The hope is that people will be able to build connections and make some new friends too.
Sister group Open Mind is a lot like Talk Group, but more focused. Adults, socially anxious or not, come together on VRChat to socialize safely there, in the same way they might in Talk Group, but with more specific goals in mind, tailored topics to discuss profoundly, and smaller social circles to do it in.
Most of the topics we talk about are ones related to mental health and kind of some of the mental struggles that we can go through. So topics like confidence, like social anxiety, like self-esteem. Every now and again there's a light-hearted one, but lots of them are, I want to say, heavy topics. The topics that people wouldn't usually get to talk to other people about. People can just get their thoughts out within reason. Obviously, there are still rules, but yeah, get their thoughts out.
They're kind of like a friendly little group of VR philosophers, but don't let that comparison deter you, because they're just as open to newcomers as Talk Group.
I feel like our group is very well suited to people with social anxiety because of the more small, intimate settings. It's not really throwing people in on the deep end. Yeah, it's not as scary talking about those intimate things in a small setting where there's not that many eyeballs on you. I mean, 8 is still scary, don't get me wrong, but hopefully over time, it will give the skills where people can start to go to those bigger events if they want to, or maybe even go into public worlds and talk to people, or just use it IRL in their day-to-day life. I have heard stories of people going out there and being more confident because of going to events like ours, going to Talk Group events. Those really, really are some of the stories that I really like hearing. I like hearing how our groups are helping people out.
They're deep, they meditate, and like Talk Group, they just give a shit, you know?
A big part of the sharing circles and the other events that Open Mind does are not only people giving their thoughts out, but also learning from other people too, and hearing their side of the story and their answers to the questions. Being able to relate to how others are going through similar struggles and knowing that it's not just them that go through social anxiety or maybe don't have the confidence that they want to have and things like that. It helps people to feel less alone too, and hopefully come together and help to build each other up to the point where they can start to, do those presentations well in front of other people, or go up to strangers if they go to events, IRL or in VRChat. That is really the goal of Open Mind, to just give people a good time, but also help them to improve as people in ways that they want to improve.
Open Mind's more deliberate structure means you have to register for their events, but it is all free, like all the best things in life. There's also Virtually Connected, a fast-growing analog to Talk Group with many of the same goals and thoughtfully run social structure. There's MondoCat, there's Fireside. Pride VR does similar good work with a focus on supporting the game's queer community. I haven't even mentioned Ancients of VRChat yet, but they're very big and much more of a social/games club, but still a decent spot if you want somewhere a little louder and extroverted than Talk Group. Groups like these are the tip of the spear, helping lead this movement on VRChat for more considerate social spaces for adults. Making friends as a grown-ass person is hard, harder than it should be, and Talk Group and its contemporaries make it a little easier, especially for the socially anxious. You can stay a while or just make it another stepping stone on your path to some peace of mind. I really appreciate the founder Cold's opinion on the transient but sort of beautiful nature of people moving through the group.
And there's also the people that will come in, they'll reap the benefits, and then they'll go out and I'll pop in on them if I've become friends, and wow, all of a sudden they're practicing these practices that we've been doing in Talk Group. If they want to hang out within their respective circles, the people that they like the most that they met here, that's completely fine. In fact, I think that's part of the point, right? Now they found a place to belong, and I'm happy for them.
That's kind of what Talk Group and its contemporaries are all about, really. Being these places where you can find yourself socially, naturally, just with a little bit of help. From there you can find others, you can make friends, you can join circles and continue a social journey that will hopefully help you out in the real world. At that point you mightn't even want to play the game anymore, but you still get to walk away with a good, maybe even beneficial experience. For me, this was a nice step on my own social journey, something I've been on for a long time. It was one that brought me here to VRChat, and when I was ready to give up, these guys reminded me that there's good people under every rock. You just need to look hard enough. Now, if you made it this far into the video and still don't really buy any of this virtual armchair sociology of mine, then how about a professional?
So my name is Hey You, or Dr. Ruth Diaz, and I am a social scientist and a community designer and an environmental designer.
A former clinical therapist, Heyu is a social scientist and a life coach who came to VR social platforms like VRChat in order to use its visual tools to help her develop a modern conflict resilience framework known as the DOT model, which she uses to teach emotional fluency and group dynamics. However, during this time, she also began to study the medium itself, attempting to gain a better understanding of it and its users with her social and psychological know-how.
VRChat was my doorway into exploring social connection in a disembodied form, as I think it is for all of us. For me, I came in knowing that and having a background studying Carl Jung, who is considered by some one of the fathers of psychology. Carl Jung believed that we have this alternate reality called the collective unconscious. And it's similar to the dream state, but some part of him seemed to believe that it was more than the dream state. It was actually where our dreams connected with each other. And similar to pleasure in our nervous system, which is using the very same nerves as pain, the dream state where we all connect can also be the nightmare state. It can be a wretched place, a hell of unbelonging. My hope for VRChat and for social VR, which is why I have stayed and planted my heart here, is that it becomes the manifestation of the collective conscious. And that transmission of running away from what is painful to leaning into what is in front of us and trusting that with choice, that is the catalyst to returning into our bodies and our physical realities on purpose, the opposite of what we left them. We left our bodies to come into these spaces because we could not find enough things to make us stay. And now we are here, and now we block and mute and flee each other on the slightest discomfort because we believe that it is our right to be in pleasure in this space. We create so much wretched pain from that belief. And I have a naive, some might say, but persistent hope that there is a great strength in the people of this application that is being born right now, that leans in through the pain and says, what if it wasn't an accident? Not because a God or a company or anybody put us here, but what if you are part of what will heal me, even if it hurts along the way? And that is how we transform the collective unconscious into the collective conscious and potentially even heal ourselves and our world.
On her journey through here, she founded Bridgemakers, a VR social group with a mission to encourage and guide VR community leaders to improve the social culture of the place, and to create better communal spaces like Talk Group and Open Mind that are not only vibrant and engaging, but also mature and inclusive.
You brought up Talk Group, and that is what made me choose to stay. What they were doing was what I wanted to support and help understand and guardian, because I do have pieces that might support it and grow it. In a place like VRChat, there's a group that's trying to help people with their social anxiety. Like, that feels like a mystical drop of light inside of a very murky swamp. Instead of waiting for that to be reborn in me, why not show up for what is already born? It alternates, but most of the time in Bridgemakers, we will have at least 2 events per week, and they're semi-structured, as in I give a frame and I train people to hold that frame with me, but also the frame breaks sometimes. We adjust it, we modify it. If something very vulnerable or dramatic or intense shows up, we learn how to make space for that too and adjust our frame, especially if that frame was part of what made it so painful or dramatic or intense. I feel like most of my being is consumed in the teaching that I'm doing, and I'm looking for creators and agents of creating these spaces, these environments, who want to build more than fantasy, who want to build more than pleasure. And I believe that we have a huge population of community builders in here who don't have the gift of that technical knowledge and that creative craft, but they are holding events and they are building community. And Bridgemakers, which is my initiative and work, is about bringing those 2 parts together. How do we match the ones who have the wisdom and the education with the ones who know how to build the containers that hold us?
As she mentioned before, Heiyu believes that VR social environments like VRChat could potentially provide a space for people to heal. But she's also helped me understand that even with many of the more positive aspects of this game, they are counterbalanced with potential negative consequences for users who don't use these spaces with either moderation or mindfulness.
We have spent a lifetime learning how to judge each other, and it will take the rest of our life to learn how to love each other. And the best and most important person to learn to love first is ourselves. Only then can we love each other more and true. And this is a place that has very little barrier to practice loving each other in a way that helps us love ourselves also. It also has a lot of pain and harm because so many people are reenacting the shadows and wounds that they've gone through, but at such a higher velocity of force. And it has consequences to our physical reality. It feels exhilarating and more true in some respects, but it also can very quickly make us lose resonance with our physical reality and lose a sense of hope that we can exist in our bodies and be whole. I believe that there is a desire and a hunger in here to figure out how to be in our bodies and physical reality and not wilt to the point where the only place we want to be is outside our bodies and here with each other. But this place actually takes us away and at least gives us a dream, a moment with each other where we can listen differently and play with permission that we don't get to do in physical reality much of the time. It allows us to shed the scars and the scared that keep us entombed in our disappointment and try something new over and over again. It's like the most insane social gambling matchmaking app ever. Like, would you like to meet somebody you definitely have less in common with than anybody you've ever met and see if you can get along with them and not burn out and block them or vice versa? And so it's kind of flipped to the most pure version of social relationships, putting the cavemen and the philosophers right next to each other and being like, let's see what happens. It is a miracle that we try. And it is also, I believe, out of this deep hunger inside that says there has to be something more.
Sure, I mean, isn't that it? The search for more, for more to all of this. It's why I'm here. It's why I'm talking to you. It's probably why you're interested in this subject. Speaking with Hey You both reinforced and weakened several of my beliefs about this whole platform and the movement taking place on it. It's deep, deeper than I thought, and it's hard to avoid that one of my strongest conclusions here is that I may be out of my depth. But I know some things for certain. Talk Group and its contemporaries sit on the razor's edge of a strange new social scene. A whole fucking world happening in micro. At virtual beach house parties and low-lit cyberpunk bars. Across sprawling landscapes and cramped Japanese apartments. In frantic raves and quiet cafes. Strewn through them are people lost and found. Forgotten and seen, loved and hated. Rules are few, for better or worse. But raw creativity is everywhere. And so are the people. In so many stripes and with so many manners. If you're somehow nostalgic for that Wild West internet you might have heard so much about, but have never actually seen, the brilliant, desolate, idiosyncratic nature of it all, and the strong communities that formed within it, you might find something like it on VRChat, while it's still this bizarre beast. While much of the internet may present now as clean and corporate, VRChat remains this independent and unregulated jungle of active and dead user-made worlds, insanely advanced and personalized avatars, and hectic communities and gangs. And if you're visiting or feel like returning, maybe check out a group like Talk Group, one of these towns on the edge of it all. Come see what a real community here can be like, away from all the noise, the trolls, the vultures, far from the maddening crowd. No theme, no roleplay, no nothing. Just some reasonable people, and a mutual want to create a space that gives a shit. A space for those who struggle, for those searching for camaraderie, for community, for some good in this game, in this whole fucking world, man. It can be hard to live in it and deal with its inhabitants, especially when you're socially anxious. But I think I've shown that something like Talk Group could be a decent place to start. But hey, you do you. Your problems, your feelings, they're all valid. But better things are coming to you. Good news is on the way, so please, hang on. And here you are. at the end of the video. You've got a very tender little heart, haven't you?
Please know that this virtual space has as much to offer you as you're willing to put into it. It's not easy finding good people, but I promise you, good people are out there. And once you find them, they will make all the difference.
If you're new to VRChat and you're having a hard time finding friends, finding discords like Talk Group or ones that are apply to you personally, if you have not done that already, then it is almost imperative to be able to make more consistent friends and enjoy your time more.
I love being around my friends, and I don't know, I've just loved my life for like the past year and a half since I've started this. I don't even want to think what my life would be like without it. Yeah.
And so I don't see it as a game. I see it as a field, a landscape, a space that we infect and we also transform.
Yo, the Hypno, come over here. This is my buddy Hypno. And I would not have met them if not for Talk Group. So thank you for that, if nothing else. Hey, Hypno, anything you'd like to say to the camera? That about wraps it up, folks. There it is.
Don't trip. Don't fall. Stay hydrated.
And she just like out of nowhere is like, "Hey Matt, you sound like this porn star I know." And I was just, huh?
Absolute pornography.
Cinema.